Is your fish stressed out and you're not sure why or how to deal with it? There's a few different things you can do if you didn't know already. Let's jump right into it. One of the biggest contributors to fish death is stress. And I'm assuming, you might be experiencing this, and that's why you are asking this question. So, an easy way to find out if your fish is stressed, if you don't already know, is they race around the tank, or they sit at the bottom of the tank, or they don't move, they're turned on their side, or they just sit at the bottom and lay on their side, and they're breathing fast. These are all good key indicators that your fish is in fact stressed out. If you bought a new fish and you brought it home, they're always more than likely going to be stressed out. There is only one fish that I have purchased and brought home that was not stressed out and seem unbothered, and that would be the infamous goldfish. But don't make a mistake, goldfish can get stressed too, but they are tanks. They are truly a complete different fish than I've been keeping over the years, and they're just tanks. That's what I call them. But getting back to the video, if you have a fish that's stressed out, whether you already know why he's stressed out or you don't, there's a couple things you can do. There's a few things you can do to fix this and take some action to help make him relax. One of those things you can do is if you already have a fish in a stressed tank and a tank you've already had running for a while, one of the things you can do is I would test your water. You want to get some good quality water test kits like the API Liquid Master Test Kit or Aquarium Co-op's test strips. They're both as accurate. I would test your water quality, see where they're at. High ammonia and high nitrates can stress a fish out because it's very toxic to them. If you have high ammonia, it's going to suffocate them to the point where they can't breathe and they're going to die, and that would stress anybody out. I know it would stress you out, it would stress me out. So definitely check your water first. Checking your water first is no different when you go to the doctor and the first thing they do is check your vitals. They're going to check your heart, they're going to check your breathing, they're going to look in your eyes, they're going to look in your mouth, the basics. When you're troubleshooting anything, you always want to stick to the basics first. So, great, we've checked our water. Your water seems fine. So why is he stressed out? Sit down and observe it for a little bit. If you have time to not take quick action, sit down and observe your fish. Make sure there's not another fish in the tank picking on him, bothering him, chasing him, nipping his fins, things like this. This would be the second course of action that I would take, keeping under that basic format form and your troubleshooting. If that is fine, the next thing I would look at is wounds on the fish. Maybe he bumped into a sharp rock or a pointy piece of driftwood and he's hurt. Right? There's some things you can do to take care of that. We'll talk about medication a little bit. That could be a whole other video. If you follow my channel, you'll see videos on that already. Just like you, if a fish is stressed out, there's something going on with him or something in the tank. He's not happy with his environment or he's not happy with himself. So also check for clamped fins, check for, something different about the fish that might be, bothering him. Something that you can visually see. If there is nothing that you can visually see, there could be something internally you can't see. After you have checked for these few things, what is the next step? Because you're not sure what to do or what's going on. In this case, if it was me and I didn't know what was going on, but there was clearly something wrong, we've already checked our water and it is fine. You sat down for a little bit, you didn't see anybody chasing or bullying him, and he visually looks fine. I would reduce lighting. The lights in our aquariums are for us, they're not for the fish. They'd be totally fine in the dark and be happier that way because they feel more safe. But having a light on your fish tank isn't a big deal. They get used to it as long as you stick to a day in and day out pattern and are consistent with it. So reduce your lighting, and I would add aquarium salt. Dose per the instructions on the box, which is usually 1 tablespoon for 5 gallons of water. You do not want to overdose the salt. Follow the directions. For example, if you have a 20-gallon tank, I wouldn't dose for the full 20 gallons because there's not actually 20 gallons of water in the tank, because your gravel and your sand and your decor and whatever else you may have in that tank takes up space in that tank. So by the time you fill it with water in a 20-gallon tank, you might have 15. So I always reduce my dosing for meds and salt and anything. I take it down 5 gallons. So if you're dosing for a 20-gallon tank, you're going to dose for 15 gallons of salt. Okay, there are some fish out there that do not do well with salt. These are called invertebrates. Fish like shrimp, they are said to not be as tolerant of salt, but in my experience, I have used salt with these fish and didn't have an issue. Now, I'm not an expert when it comes to shrimp. I'm not an expert when it comes to fish, but I know in my experience by trying things for myself, the salt doesn't seem to bother the cory cats or the plecos that I have. So, reduce light, add some salt. Aquarium salt is a great natural way to medicate fish and help them relax and de-stress them, because what it does, it helps them breathe better. It adds a slime coat to them, and it helps them just relax. And if there is something going on that you cannot see, right, because we already checked visually, or even if there was something that you could see visually, aquarium salt is a great front of the line treatment. Okay, so let's turn the lights down or completely off and dose the salt. Let them relax in there for a couple of days. Monitor them and see if they're okay. If they're okay and they get back to normal, you're good. If not, you have a deeper issue, and then we can troubleshoot that next. The next step you can take is you can actually pull that fish out and you can put him in quarantine, a hospital tank all by himself. If you're not sure about a quarantine tank, I've done videos on that. There's a lot out there. I'm not going to get into that with this video, but you can go ahead and set one up, put them in there, and you can continue to dose with salt. But if you clearly see there's a bigger problem, we can get into the meds. Meds I always keep on hand. My go-to medications, just because they're available in the store anywhere to me, is API General Cure, API Erythromycin, and API Fit and Body. And I also like to keep Hikari's IC-X. All these medications are safe to use together at the same time, and they're going to get anything inside and out. But we don't have to go that far. You can let the fish soak in the salt solution for a week or two to see if it helps him first. If he gets back to normal, simply put him, do a water change, and then simply put him back in his tank, and if he's back to normal, you're good to go. However, if he isn't, you do need to use meds. You can dose those medications, as I stated, all together and safely, and there might be something going on inside you can't see, and this will help that. Another thing I like to keep on him at hand is Seachem Stress Guard. This is basically like a peroxide for fish. If there are any wounds on this fish's body, this is going to bind to that proteins on that wound and disinfect it so it doesn't get infected. Another thing about Seachem Stress Guard, hence the name, it helps reduce stress. So you're kind of killing two birds with one stone, if you will, with this. That is something you can add to the tank with your salt before you think you need to start medication as well. Always think of the simplest things first, like I said earlier. You don't want to go crazy and stress them out further by moving them back if it's not needed. Right? Plus, you don't want to your big display tank unless you don't have to. Right? You can. It's not going to hurt the fish, and it's actually a good preventative thing you could do. But by doing so, there's some things you have to do if you have to just treat a whole display tank afterwards, like removing any chemical media like carbon or purigen, because that'll just take the meds back out. And you got to do your water changes and get that stuff out of there. It's not a big deal. People do it all the time. It's just extra steps you may not have to take, and extra stress on the fish you don't have to necessarily do. So my suggestion, if you have a stressed fish, just like we talked to as a quick recap, test your water. If your water's good, monitor the fish. If he's still acting strange and you realize he's not being bullied or he doesn't have any wounds on him, could be something inside. So at this point, let's go ahead and put some aquarium salt in there, and let's go ahead and add some sort of stress guard, like Seachem Stress Guard or API Stress Coat. There's several ones out there that you can use, and then let's monitor him for a while. If after 2-3 days he's not getting any better, obviously there's something going on with the fish. Let's pull him out. Let's put him in QT. If you can't QT, you can go ahead and med and do the whole tank as well. Let's go through the medication treatments. Let's complete that. Once that's completed, you're going to have to do your water changes and keep monitoring them. If it gets better, obviously you fix something. If not, we've got to dive deeper into the situation. What that might be, you're just going to have to get online and research, because there's a whole slew of different things that can be wrong with fish, and there's many different diseases out there, but there are meds and ways to treat all of them. There are some diseases and sicknesses out there that are very hard to, if you can ever fix, like dropsy, when they get bloated up and they start floating up and they get pine cone. That's a very hard thing to fix. I have never ever been able to treat that and fix it. It's just a tough one. So, well, I hope this video helps. Let me know if it did help you in the comments below. If you have any more questions, feel free to comment on any of my videos. I always get back to you guys pretty quickly, unless I'm in bed sleeping. And thanks again. Have a safe week, and have a great 4th of July. Bye.